In this gripping tale from Storytime Audio, dive into the life of Detective Liam Turner, a dedicated officer in a small, peaceful town in Alberta, Canada. His world is turned upside down one spring evening when a call to duty interrupts a romantic dinner with his wife, Emma. What starts as a routine domestic disturbance quickly spirals into a complex web of betrayal, love, and corruption. Follow Liam as he uncovers shocking truths about those closest to him and embarks on a quest for justice that will test his resolve and redefine his life. This is Unraveling Betrayal, the detective's journey through love, lies, and a cheating wife. I'm Liam Turner, a detective in a small, peaceful town in Alberta, Canada. I've been happily married to my wife, Emma, for over a decade. We've known each other since high school, where our friendship gradually blossomed into love. After university, we decided to tie the knot, and life has been blissful ever since. Emma, a dedicated lawyer, has always been my source of pride and support. Our town, though small, is charming and tight-knit. It's the kind of place where everyone knows everyone, and life moves at a slower, more comfortable pace. Crime here is minimal, which often leaves me with ample time to enjoy my family and the serene surroundings. Our home is nestled on a quiet street lined with maple trees that turn vibrant shades of red and gold each autumn, creating a picturesque backdrop to our daily lives. However, life has a way of throwing curveballs when you least expect it. One spring evening in May 2024, I was preparing for a romantic dinner with Emma. We had planned this evening meticulously, wanting to break away from our routines and rekindle some of the sparks that had perhaps dimmed over the years. As I was setting the table with Emma's favorite candles and the meal we had both prepared together, my phone rang. It was Sheriff Harris, my superior and a man I deeply respected. "Liam, I hate to interrupt your evening, but we've got a situation that needs immediate attention," Harris said, his voice carrying the weight of urgency. "Sure, Sheriff. What's the issue?" I replied, already sensing that my plans for the evening were about to be derailed. "There's a domestic violence call near your place. All patrol cars are currently occupied, and since you're closest, I need you to handle this," Harris explained. I sighed inwardly, glancing over at Emma, who had just finished setting the table. She gave me a knowing smile, the kind that said she understood the unpredictability of my job. "All right, I'll head over there now," I said, grabbing my badge, belt, and revolver. Emma walked over and gave me a kiss. "Be safe, Liam. We can always have dinner later," she said softly. As I stepped out into the cool spring evening, I couldn't shake the feeling that something was off. The air was crisp, carrying the faint scent of blooming flowers, but it did little to calm my nerves. I arrived at the address Sheriff Harris had given me and found a familiar scene. It was the home of the Roberts family. Sue Roberts had called in, reporting that her husband Hunter was drunk and had become violent again. This wasn't the first time I'd been called to this house. Hunter had a history of alcoholism and domestic abuse, and despite numerous interventions, Sue had always refused to press charges or leave him. It was a frustrating cycle that seemed to have no end. As I approached the house, I could hear shouting and the sounds of objects being thrown. I knocked on the door, and Sue answered, her face tear-streaked and filled with fear. "Thank you for coming, Detective Turner," she said, her voice trembling. "Where is he, Sue?" I asked, stepping inside and scanning the room. "He's in the living room," she replied, pointing towards the back of the house. I walked through the house, past the scattered remnants of what had once been a peaceful home. Hunter was slouched on the couch, a bottle of whiskey in his hand, his eyes glazed with drunken anger. "Hunter, it's Liam Turner. We need to talk," I said, trying to keep my voice calm and authoritative. He looked up at me, his expression a mixture of defiance and resignation. "What do you want, Turner? Can't a man have a drink in his own house?" he slurred. "Not when he's hurting his family. You know the drill, Hunter. We've been through this before," I said, stepping closer. After a tense standoff, I managed to convince Hunter to come with me to the station. Sue, as always, refused to press charges but promised once more to seek help for him. It was a promise I had heard too many times before, and I couldn't help but feel a deep sense of frustration and helplessness as I drove Hunter to the station. By the time I finished the paperwork and left the station, it was past midnight. The streets were eerily quiet as I drove home, my mind replaying the events of the evening. I hoped Emma was still awake so we could salvage what was left of our evening. When I arrived home, I was surprised to find another car in the driveway. It was Nathan Gray's. My heart sank, and a sense of dread washed over me. Nathan was the mayor's son, a man who had always carried an air of entitlement and arrogance. He had been a star quarterback in high school until a knee injury ended his career. Since then, his father had found him a position at City Hall, working closely with the sheriff's department. Nathan had always had a soft spot for Emma. Even during our high school days, he would flirt with her openly, despite having a girlfriend of his own. Emma had never reciprocated his advances, but his persistent attention had always irked me. I walked into the house, trying to keep my composure. Emma and Nathan were sitting on the couch, deep in conversation. Emma looked up as I entered, her expression unreadable. "Liam, you're home," she said, standing up and walking over to me. "Yeah, just finished up at the station," I replied, glancing at Nathan, who was giving me his usual smug smile. "Sorry about that, Liam. I didn't know you were on duty tonight," Nathan said, feigning innocence. "It's fine, Nathan. What brings you here?" I asked, trying to keep my voice neutral. "Cynthia went into town with her parents, and I thought I'd drop by to see if you guys were busy." "Guess I got lucky with your call-out," he said, still smiling that infuriating smile. I forced a polite smile. "Well, it's getting late, and I'd like to spend some time with my wife. If you don't mind, Nathan." Of course. I'll get out of your hair," he said, standing up and heading towards the door. As soon as he left, I turned to Emma. "What was he doing here?" I asked, unable to hide the suspicion in my voice. "He just dropped by to chat. We were reminiscing about old times," she said, her smile reassuring but not entirely convincing. I nodded, trying to push the nagging doubts out of my mind. "All right, let's try to salvage what's left of our evening," I said, pulling her into a hug. We spent the rest of the night together, but the seed of doubt had been planted. Over the next few weeks, I couldn't shake the feeling that something was amiss. Emma and I managed to arrange a couple of dates, but I was often called to work, and our time together was constantly interrupted. Emma grew increasingly frustrated, and so did I. The strain in our relationship became more apparent, and I found myself questioning everything. Was Emma really just reminiscing with Nathan, or was there something more? I didn't want to believe it, but the signs were hard to ignore. One Friday night, about a month after the incident with Hunter, I received a call from Sophia Gray. She sounded frantic, her voice barely above a whisper. "Liam, you need to come to my house. It's urgent," she said, her voice shaking. "Sophia, what's going on?" I asked, feeling a knot form in my stomach. "Just come, please," she pleaded before hanging up. I told Sheriff Harris I needed the rest of the day off and drove to Sophia's house as fast as I could. When I arrived, I saw Emma's car in the driveway. The knot in my stomach tightened, and my mind raced with possibilities. Sophia was pacing back and forth in front of the house. When she saw me, she ran over, tears streaming down her face. "Liam, thank God you're here," she said, hugging me tightly. "Hey, calm down, Sophia. What's going on?" I asked, trying to soothe her. She looked up at me, her eyes wide with fear and desperation. "Don't you know?" she asked, her voice trembling. "No, I don't. Tell me what's happening," I said, feeling my patience wear thin. She took a deep breath and led me inside. I followed her to the bedroom, where I found Emma and Nathan, naked and frozen in shock. My heart felt like it had been ripped out of my chest. I took out my phone and started taking pictures. Emma jumped up, trying to cover herself, but I ignored her protests. "Liam, I can explain," she said, her voice breaking. I continued taking pictures, my hands shaking with anger and betrayal. When I had enough evidence, I turned to Sophia, who had followed me into the room. "Did you know about this?" I asked her, my voice cold. "Yes, but I thought you knew too," she admitted, her eyes filled with guilt. I turned back to Emma. "How long has this been going on?" I demanded. 2 months, she said quietly, tears streaming down her face. I nodded, my mind racing. "And did you use protection every time?" I asked, my voice hard. "Yes, every time," she replied, her voice barely above a whisper. I looked at Nathan, who was still sitting on the bed, his face contorted with fear and anger. "You better hope she's telling the truth," I said, my voice laced with menace. I turned back to Sophia. "Pack your things. You're coming with me," I said, my mind already formulating a plan. Sophia nodded, grabbing a suitcase and starting to pack. I watched her for a moment before turning back to Emma. "What's the real reason, Emma? Why him?" I asked, my voice breaking. "It's not what you think, Liam. I love you, but I needed something more. Nathan was just there," she said, her voice filled with regret. I shook my head, feeling the weight of her betrayal settle in. "You don't love me, Emma. If you did, you wouldn't have done this," I said, my voice hollow. I turned to Sophia, who was standing by the door with her suitcase. "Let's go," I said, walking out of the room without looking back. As we drove to my house, my mind was a whirlwind of emotions. Anger, betrayal, and a deep, aching sadness. Sophia sat silently beside me, her own pain evident in her tear-streaked face. When we arrived, I called Sheriff Harris and explained the situation. He agreed to let me take the rest of the week off, understanding the gravity of what had just happened. Sophia and I spent the next few hours talking, sharing our stories and our pain. We both felt a sense of betrayal, not just from our spouses but from the people we had trusted the most. As the evening turned into night, we made a pact to stand by each other and seek justice for the wrongs that had been done to us. The next day, we met with Mark, a lawyer I had known for years. He listened to our story, his expression growing more serious with each detail. When we finished, he promised to help us gather the evidence we needed and prepare the necessary documents for our divorce cases. Over the next few weeks, we worked tirelessly, collecting evidence and building our case. We sent the incriminating photos and details of Nathan and Robert's illegal activities to the local news stations and relevant authorities. The town was soon buzzing with the scandal, and the once respected Gray family found themselves under intense scrutiny. With the help of Sheriff Harris, we arranged for the arrest of Nathan and Robert. The charges of conspiracy and domestic violence were enough to ensure they would face the consequences of their actions. The news spread like wildfire, and the town was shocked by the revelations. As Nathan and Robert faced their legal battles, Sophia and I found solace in each other. Our shared pain and determination to seek justice brought us closer together, and we began to rebuild our lives from the ruins of our past. Nathan and Robert were eventually convicted and sentenced to prison. Emma, unable to bear the shame and guilt, moved to a different city to start anew. Sophia and I, on the other hand, decided to make our relationship official and got married. We found happiness in each other, knowing that we had done the right thing. Our small town had undergone a significant change, and I knew that we had set a precedent for justice and integrity. As I held Sophia's hand, I realized that despite the pain and betrayal, we had emerged stronger and more resilient. Our love and trust in each other were the foundations upon which we built our new life, and I was determined to protect and cherish it for as long as I lived. A few weeks had passed since the night I discovered Emma's betrayal. My mind was constantly filled with a mix of emotions: anger, betrayal, sadness, and a longing for the simpler, happier times. Despite everything, I had to keep going for the sake of my work and my new relationship with Sophia. One Friday evening, I was sitting in my office at the police station, going over some paperwork. The sun had just begun to set, casting long shadows across my desk. The quiet of the station was suddenly broken by the ringing of my phone. It was Sophia. "Liam, you need to get here now." Sophia's voice was frantic, almost a whisper. "Sophia, what's wrong?" I asked, immediately on alert. "Just come to my house, please. It's urgent," she said before hanging up. I grabbed my things and hurried out of the station. On my way to Sophia's house, I couldn't help but feel a sense of dread. When I arrived, her face was pale, and her eyes were filled with fear. "What's going on?" I asked, trying to keep my voice calm. Sophia led me inside. "Nathan found out about the divorce papers. He's furious and threatening me. I don't know what to do," she explained, her voice trembling. As she spoke, I could feel my anger rising. Nathan had always been a problem, but now he was becoming dangerous. "Stay here. I'm going to handle this," I said, trying to reassure her. I drove to Nathan's place, my mind racing with thoughts of what I might find. When I arrived, I saw his car parked outside. I took a deep breath, preparing myself for what was to come. As I walked up to the door, I could hear raised voices coming from inside. "Nathan, open the door," I shouted, pounding on it. After a few moments, the door was flung open, and Nathan stood there, his face twisted with anger. "What the hell do you want, Liam?" he snarled. "We need to talk," I said, pushing my way inside. "Talk about what?" "How you're ruining my life." He spat, his fists clenched at his sides. I took a deep breath, trying to keep my composure. Nathan, you need to back off. Sophia has every right to divorce you, and if you keep threatening her, things are going to get a lot worse for you. Nathan let out a bitter laugh. You think you can just come in here and tell me what to do? I'm the mayor's son. I can do whatever I want. Not anymore, I said firmly. I've already gathered enough evidence to ensure you and your father face the consequences of your actions. Nathan's face turned red with fury. You think you're so righteous, don't you? You think you can take everything from me and walk away unscathed? Before I could respond, he lunged at me, his fists swinging wildly. I managed to dodge his initial attack and grabbed his arm, twisting it behind his back. Calm down, Nathan. This isn't going to help you, I said through gritted teeth. Nathan struggled for a moment before finally going limp. You're going to regret this, Liam, he muttered. I called Sheriff Harris to inform him of the situation. Within minutes, backup arrived, and Nathan was taken into custody. As they led him away, I couldn't help but feel a sense of relief. One part of the problem was temporarily solved, but I knew there was still a long way to go. Over the next few days, Sophia and I focused on gathering more evidence against Nathan and his father, Robert. We went through old files, emails, and documents, looking for anything that could help our case. It was exhausting work, but we were determined to see it through. One evening, while sifting through a stack of papers, Sophia found something that caught her eye. Liam, look at this, she said, handing me a document. It was a memo from Robert to a city contractor, detailing a shady deal that involved kickbacks and favors. This was the kind of evidence we needed. This is it, Sophia. This could be the smoking gun, I said, feeling a surge of hope. We quickly scanned and copied the document, adding it to our growing pile of evidence. Each new piece we found felt like a small victory, bringing us one step closer to justice. With our evidence in hand, we scheduled a meeting with Mark to finalize our case. He was impressed with what we had gathered and assured us that we had a strong case against Nathan and Robert. The following week, we decided it was time to make our move. With the help of Sheriff Harris, we arranged for the arrest of Robert Gray. It was a delicate operation, given his position as the mayor, but we were determined to see it through. On the day of the arrest, we gathered at the police station, going over the plan one last time. Everyone knows what they need to do? Sheriff Harris asked, looking around the room. We all nodded. The tension in the air was palpable, but there was also a sense of resolve. We knew this was our chance to make things right. As we drove to City Hall, my mind was filled with thoughts of how far we had come. Sophia sat beside me, her hand resting on mine for reassurance. We're almost there, I said, giving her a small smile. When we arrived, we found Robert in his office, looking as composed as ever. He glanced up, his expression turning to one of surprise as he saw us enter with Sheriff Harris. What is this? He demanded. Robert Gray, you're under arrest for conspiracy, corruption, and obstruction of justice, Sheriff Harris said, stepping forward to place him in handcuffs. Robert's face turned a deep shade of red. You can't do this. I'm the mayor, he shouted, struggling against the cuffs. Not anymore, I said firmly. We have enough evidence to ensure you face the consequences of your actions. As they led him away, I couldn't help but feel a sense of justice. We had taken down one of the most corrupt figures in our town, and it was a victory that meant the world to us. ###, the town reacts. News of the arrest spread quickly, and the town was abuzz with talk of the scandal. Local news stations picked up the story, and soon it was all anyone could talk about. The once respected Gray family was now the subject of intense scrutiny and public outrage. People began to come forward with their own stories of corruption and abuse of power, adding fuel to the fire. The town, once peaceful and quiet, was now in the midst of a major upheaval. Despite the chaos, Sophia and I found solace in each other. We had faced unimaginable challenges, but we had come out stronger on the other side. Our bond was unbreakable, forged in the fires of betrayal and forged into something beautiful and resilient. As the legal proceedings against Nathan and Robert began, we knew there was still a long road ahead. But for the first time in a long while, we felt a sense of hope and determination. We had done what was right, and we would continue to fight for justice and integrity in our town. The arrest of Robert Gray sent shockwaves through our small town. The once untouchable mayor was now facing serious charges, and his son Nathan was in no better position. As Sophia and I prepared for the upcoming court battles, we knew that this was just the beginning of a long and arduous process. We spent countless hours with Mark, our lawyer, meticulously going over every piece of evidence we had collected. Mark was confident that we had a strong case, but he also warned us that the defense would put up a fierce fight. "Robert and Nathan will have the best lawyers money can buy," Mark said during one of our strategy sessions. "They're going to try to discredit you, intimidate witnesses, and use every trick in the book to get out of this." Sophia and I exchanged a determined glance. "We're ready for whatever they throw at us," she said firmly, squeezing my hand for support. The trial began on a rainy morning in early June. The courthouse was packed with reporters, curious townsfolk, and a host of legal professionals. The tension in the air was palpable as we took our seats, ready to face the defense team. As the prosecution presented its case, we watched as witness after witness took the stand, recounting their experiences with the Greys. The testimonies painted a damning picture of corruption, abuse of power, and outright criminal behavior. Sophia and I were both called to testify. When it was my turn, I felt a mixture of nerves and resolve. Taking a deep breath, I stepped up to the witness stand and took the oath. "Liam Turner, can you please describe your relationship with the defendants?" the prosecutor asked. "I've known Nathan Gray since high school. We were never friends, but we had mutual acquaintances. I've known Robert Gray professionally as the mayor of our town," I replied, my voice steady. "Can you describe the events that led to the discovery of their illegal activities?" the prosecutor continued. I recounted the story in detail, from the night I discovered Emma and Nathan's affair to the evidence we had uncovered with Sophia's help. As I spoke, I could see the jury listening intently, their expressions serious. When it was Sophia's turn to testify, she described the abuse she had endured and the threats Nathan had made. Her bravery and honesty moved many in the courtroom, and I could see the impact her words had on the jury. As strong as our case was, the defense team was relentless. They tried to paint Sophia and me as vindictive, claiming that we were out for revenge rather than justice. They questioned our motives and attempted to poke holes in our testimonies. One afternoon, during a particularly heated cross-examination, the defense lawyer smirked at me. "Mr. Turner, isn't it true that you have a personal vendetta against Nathan Gray because he had an affair with your wife?" I took a deep breath, keeping my composure. "My personal feelings about Nathan Gray have no bearing on the evidence we've presented. The facts speak for themselves," I said firmly. The lawyer pressed on, but I stood my ground, refusing to be intimidated. Sophia faced similar tactics, but she too remained resolute, refusing to let the defense shake her confidence. As the trial progressed, the prosecution's case continued to build momentum. The evidence was overwhelming, and the defense struggled to counter the sheer weight of the facts. Still, we knew that anything could happen, and we couldn't afford to become complacent. One afternoon, Mark called us into his office. "I've got some good news," he said, a rare smile on his face. "We've found a witness who can provide crucial testimony against Robert Gray." The witness was a former city contractor who had been involved in some of the shady deals we had uncovered. He had come forward, willing to testify in exchange for immunity. "This could be the break we need," Mark said, his excitement palpable. "With his testimony, we can solidify our case and expose the full extent of Robert's corruption." The next day, the contractor took the stand. His testimony was explosive, detailing a web of deceit, bribery, and corruption that went far beyond what we had initially uncovered. The courtroom buzzed with shock and outrage as he described how Robert Gray had used his position to line his own pockets and manipulate the system for his benefit. After weeks of intense testimony and legal wrangling, the trial finally drew to a close. The jury deliberated for several days, and the waiting was excruciating. Sophia and I tried to stay busy, but it was impossible to think about anything other than the outcome of the trial. Finally, on a sunny morning in late June, the jury reached a verdict. The courtroom was packed as we took our seats, our hearts pounding with anticipation. The judge entered, and the room fell silent. "Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, have you reached a verdict?" he asked. The foreman stood, holding a piece of paper. "We have, Your Honor," he replied. The judge nodded. "Please read the verdict." The foreman took a deep breath. "We, the jury, find the defendants, Robert Gray and Nathan Gray, guilty on all counts." A collective gasp filled the courtroom, followed by a wave of relief and elation. Sophia and I hugged each other tightly, tears streaming down our faces. Justice had prevailed. In the weeks that followed the verdict, our town began to heal. The Gray family's downfall sent a clear message that no one was above the law, and the community rallied together to rebuild trust and integrity. Robert and Nathan were sentenced to lengthy prison terms, and their properties were seized to compensate for their crimes. The town elected a new mayor, someone with a reputation for honesty and transparency, and slowly but surely, life began to return to normal. Sophia and I continued to support each other, our bond growing stronger with each passing day. We knew that we had been through a crucible, but we had emerged stronger and more resilient. One evening, as we sat on the porch of our home, watching the sun set over the maple trees, Sophia turned to me with a smile. "We did it, Liam. We stood up for what was right, and we won." I nodded, squeezing her hand. "We did, and we'll keep fighting for justice and truth, no matter what." As the last rays of sunlight faded, I felt a deep sense of peace and contentment. Our journey had been filled with pain and betrayal, but it had also led us to a place of strength and hope. Together, we faced the future with courage and determination, knowing that we had the power to make a difference. In the aftermath of the trial, our small town slowly began to return to a sense of normalcy. The scandal had left a lasting impact, but it also brought about a renewed commitment to integrity and transparency within the community. Sophia and I felt a sense of accomplishment, but we also knew there was still much to be done to fully heal from the past. We decided to take a short vacation to clear our minds and recharge. We rented a cabin by a serene lake in the Rocky Mountains, far away from the chaos and stress of the trial. The crisp mountain air and breathtaking scenery provided the perfect backdrop for us to reconnect and reflect on our journey. One evening, as we sat by the lake, watching the sun dip below the horizon, Sophia turned to me. "Liam, what do you think about starting a community outreach program? Something that helps people who've been through what we've experienced." I looked at her, surprised but intrigued. "That's a great idea, Sophia. We've seen firsthand how important it is to have support and resources during difficult times." We spent the rest of the evening brainstorming ideas for the program. We wanted to create a safe space where people could share their stories, seek advice, and find the support they needed to rebuild their lives. The idea of turning our pain into a source of strength for others felt incredibly empowering. Upon returning home, we dove headfirst into making our vision a reality. We reached out to friends, local businesses, and community leaders to gather support for our initiative. To our delight, many people were eager to help, having witnessed the positive changes brought about by our fight for justice. We named our program Hope Haven and set up a small office in the heart of the town. We offered counseling services, legal advice, and support groups for those affected by domestic violence, infidelity, and corruption. The response was overwhelming, and it wasn't long before Hope Haven became a cornerstone of our community. Sophia and I worked tirelessly, often putting in long hours to ensure that everyone who walked through our doors felt heard and supported. It was exhausting but incredibly fulfilling work. Seeing the positive impact we were making on people's lives gave us a renewed sense of purpose. As we helped others heal, Sophia and I also continued to work on our own relationship. We attended couples therapy to address the lingering trust issues and emotional scars left by our previous marriages. It wasn't always easy, but we were committed to building a strong, healthy relationship based on mutual respect and understanding. One evening, after a particularly intense therapy session, Sophia and I took a walk through the park. The sun was setting, casting a warm, golden glow over the landscape. We stopped by a bench and sat down, holding hands. "Liam, I know it's been a tough journey, but I'm so grateful for where we are now," Sophia said, her voice filled with emotion. I squeezed her hand gently. "Me too, Sophia. We've come a long way, and I couldn't have done it without you." We sat in comfortable silence for a while, watching the children play and the ducks swimming in the pond. It was a simple moment, but it was one that reminded us of the beauty and joy that still existed in the world. As Hope Haven grew, so did the challenges we faced. There were times when the stories we heard were heartbreaking, and the weight of responsibility felt overwhelming. But through it all, Sophia and I leaned on each other, finding strength in our shared commitment to helping others. One particularly difficult case involved a young woman named Lisa. She had been trapped in an abusive relationship for years and had finally mustered the courage to seek help. Her story resonated deeply with Sophia, who took a special interest in ensuring that Lisa received the support she needed. Liam, Lisa's story reminds me so much of my own. I want to do everything I can to help her, Sophia said one evening as we reviewed Lisa's case file. We'll do whatever it takes, Sophia. You've already made such a difference in her life, I reassured her. With Sophia's guidance and the resources provided by Hope Haven, Lisa slowly began to rebuild her life. She found a job, enrolled in therapy, and eventually moved into her own apartment. Watching her transformation was incredibly rewarding, and it reaffirmed our belief in the importance of the work we were doing. The success of Hope Haven brought the community closer together. People from all walks of life came together to support our cause, creating a network of care and compassion that extended far beyond the walls of our office. Local businesses offered discounts and donations, volunteers organized fundraisers, and even the police department increased their efforts to address domestic violence and corruption. One of our most successful events was a charity run that we organized to raise awareness and funds for Hope Haven. The turnout was incredible, with hundreds of participants and spectators coming together to support our mission. As Sophia and I crossed the finish line hand in hand, we felt a profound sense of accomplishment and gratitude. Our town has really come together, hasn't it? Sophia said, looking around at the smiling faces and festive atmosphere. It has. And it's all thanks to you, Sophia. You had the vision and the courage to make this happen, I replied, hugging her tightly. As the months passed, Sophia and I continued to grow Hope Haven, expanding our services and reaching more people in need. We also began to look towards the future, discussing our dreams and aspirations beyond our work. One evening, as we sat by the fireplace in our cozy living room, Sophia brought up an idea that had been on her mind for a while. Liam, what do you think about starting a family? I looked at her, surprised but overjoyed. I'd love that, Sophia. I think we'd make great parents. We began to plan for the next chapter of our lives, excited about the possibilities that lay ahead. We knew that starting a family would bring its own set of challenges, but we were ready to face them together. Our journey had been filled with pain, betrayal, and uncertainty, but it had also led us to a place of strength, love, and purpose. Sophia and I had found each other through the darkest of times and had built a life that was filled with hope and resilience. As we looked towards the future, we knew that we would continue to fight for justice and support those in need. Our love for each other and our commitment to making a difference in the world would guide us through whatever challenges lay ahead. And so, hand in hand, we faced the future with courage and determination, knowing that together, we could overcome anything. In the aftermath of the trial, our town began to heal, its spirit stronger than ever. The scandal had shaken us, but it also forged a renewed commitment to integrity and community. Sophia and I, now united by our shared experiences, found peace and purpose in our work at Hope Haven, helping others rebuild their lives just as we had rebuilt ours. With Robert and Nathan Gray facing justice, and Emma starting anew far away, we embraced a future filled with hope. Our journey had been marked by betrayal and pain, but it also led us to strength, love, and a new beginning. As we looked ahead, hand in hand, we knew that no challenge was insurmountable. Together, we would continue to fight for justice, support those in need, and cherish the unbreakable bond we had forged through adversity. This story of resilience, love, and the pursuit of justice comes to a close, but the echoes of our journey will continue to inspire and remind us that even in the darkest times, there is always a path to the light. Thank you for joining us on this emotional roller coaster. This has been Unraveling Betrayal, the detective's journey through love, lies, and a cheating wife, brought to you by Storytime Audio.